Kia ora, tolofalava, and a warm welcome to another episode of the Counter Ruck, a podcast where we discuss all things rugby. I'm the host of the Counter Ruck, Stacey, and today we welcome a very special guest to our podcast this week. Former Hurricanes pivot or still current Hurricanes pivot? James Marshall.
Nah.
James, mate. Thanks for jumping on, brother.
Definitely the former. No way.
Okay.
Definitely the former, though, mate. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I was involved in the squad last year, but I did have hip surgery, which has ended my career. So, that's the end of my playing days, unfortunately.
Oh no, that's horrible, mate. Sorry to hear that news. I know I thought with Ruben Love, he had a little injury. Obviously, we don't wish anything. I hope he's going to be okay. But I thought, I wonder if they could maybe get James Marshall on the podcast, and then we see him running out with the Hurricanes for an injury replacement. But no, not to be.
Not to be. I would have loved to.
And also we welcome one of the regulars on the podcast from the City of the Future. Got to get that in there, City of the Future.
Yes, thank you.
Joey. Joey, mate, welcome, brother.
Thank you. City of the Future salutes you all.
Yep. Right, so James, mate, I'll come to you. So obviously, a lot of our listeners will know you through, your time with the Hurricanes, but some people may not know that you've also got your own podcast out there. What a Lad is the name of the podcast. So we'll just get you to talk about that, just how that all started up, and what it's about and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, sweet. So last year when I had my hip surgery, I pretty much realised that my career was coming to the end. I was still hoping that I was going to come back and play, but I thought I'd better start looking at some options outside of rugby, and one of those was always going to be coach, and that was always the plan. But I also promised my wife that once I'd finished my career, we were going to settle in one spot, and I wasn't going to move around. So I knew coaching is not really that lifestyle, so I thought I'd better try and find a lifestyle which potentially could do in one spot, and that's where I sort of thought the podcast could fit in quite nicely. I always got frustrated with listening to guys talking to the media, whereas I saw them, what they're like in the changing rooms, and I used to always just think, man, I wish I could just portray this guy for the guy I know him and get people to hear what this guy's really like instead of just those straight same old answers that they give when they're in front of the media. So that was a big passion for me behind it. And then I just sort of set it up, and first goal was sort of I heard the average podcast only lasted 7 episodes, was sort of the range most of them hit. So that was the first goal, and then just continued to set little goals. And I think I'm at sort of like 80 episodes now. So just sort of kept doing it and starting to get a bit more momentum as I continue. So it's been cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we've been listening. So I will say that, like you said, there's a lot of podcasts that have started up and then they sort of fade off. So it's good to hear that you're sticking with it. And I 100% agree with you because, in rugby and in New Zealand as well, some of the media or the interviews, you just get the stock standard answers. So it's good if we can get something that delves a bit deeper, which is similar to what myself and Joey are trying to do here with our podcasts as well. So that's really good to hear. And yeah, just for our listeners out there, What a Lad is the podcast, and if you haven't listened to it, give it a listen. It's a really good. So. Just one thing I wanted to ask you about the podcast, the opening music that you got there at the start. Where did that come from? Because that's quite entertaining as well.
I actually I didn't have one at the start in my earlier episodes, and I think someone messaged me on Instagram saying, "Hey man, you need a jingle or something," and then I just put it on my Instagram feed. I said, is anyone keen to make a jingle for the podcast? And I had about 4 or 5 guys reach out and say, yeah, I'm keen to do this. And I sort of told them what I wanted because I listened to that song, What a Man by Salt and Pepper, and it got stuck in my head for about 3 days, and I was like, and then I just changed the man to lad. I was like, hang on, this could be quite a cool jingle, but I obviously can't sing or have no music skills. So I just asked this guy to do it, and he's done it, and I've just chucked it on, and people seem to be singing it away.
Yeah, that's quite catchy. So we might have to. I don't have no musical ability, so I might have to try to do this similar to you, get someone else to do it for us. But yeah, all right, boys. I wanted to have a quick look at a couple of things. So Trans-Tasman started up over the weekend. Just it's something that a lot of people look forward to. So just to see some different opposition as opposed to the New Zealand guys just smashing each other every week, and just to see how the Australian teams would stack up against us. So, Joey, I'll come to you. What did you make of the first week of the Trans-Tasman competition?
I thought it was quite predictable. By predictable, I mean the Kiwi teams did well. I think you were always going to have that because you had Kiwi teams playing each other for the longest time, and to take words out of Aaron Smith's mouth, bashing up your mates week in week out. So I think that has only done good for every team, even the hapless Highlanders and Hurricanes. As you saw with the results that they had, those two teams had on the weekend as well. So first week out of the way, good results New Zealand wise. Not so much on the Australian side of things, but I think they will start to change as they learn from each game because they're playing each other. I think some amendments and adjustments will be made to what's the word they used to use in high school? Rectify their mistakes.
Oh yeah, nah, sweet. I agree with you. Like I thought it was a little predictable. I thought the Kiwi teams were all going to win. A couple of games were closer than I thought they were going to be. Obviously, thought the Force put up a pretty good fight. I mean, they had a chance to win it right at the death there. Probably should have won it, to be fair, and it might have been a different story. But I think there's two clear standout teams for Australia and the other two finalists. I thought the Reds were, tough gig after a final to then travel over to New Zealand and play the Highlanders. They sent a little bit of a depleted team, but I think the Reds are going to be a force over the next few weeks, especially for teams having to go over there. And same with the Brumbies. I felt like they showed enough in that game against the Crusaders that they're going to be really tough to beat over in Canberra.
Yeah, totally. Especially by only losing, 2 points? 2 points in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, they had a conversion right at full time again to draw it. And, if those two kicks go over, it's a different story, isn't it? It's three wins, a draw and a loss.
So I guess from a Trans-Tasman, derby perspective, the gap is closing. The gap that seemed to be widening all those years in the Bledisloe Cup matches between Australia and New Zealand seems to be closing a little bit, at least with the Brumbies side of things anyway.
Yeah, the Brumbies and Reds. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, Stacey's back. Hey, mate.
Sorry, boys, I cut out. I just had a really good point and now it's gone. So I have to just take my word that was amazing before the technical difficulties. But sorry, James, you were going to say something about the just about the Brumbies and stuff. Carry on.
Yeah, I sort of spoke about the Brumbies and the Reds. How I felt like they're going to be the two teams to beat over in Aussie. I felt like the Brumbies were. Put up a really good performance against the Crusaders, and when teams have to travel over to Canberra, I think that's going to be a really difficult fixture for a lot of those Kiwi sides.
You're frozen. You're frozen, Stacey. You might need to turn on the heat.
Oh, mate.
Turn on the heat pump so you don't keep freezing.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. I'll have to check my connections. Sorry, boys. Yeah, no, good. I agree with that. The Reds and the Brumbies look like the top teams. But, we'll just go through the games, boys, just so we can have a little bit in depth.
Yeah.
So the Highlanders played the Reds on Friday night. So you guys just talked about the Reds. And the Highlanders took that out 40-19, I think was the score. So, mate, Joey, mate, what did you make of that game? Did you catch it?
The Highlanders game?
Yeah.
I caught bits of it. I didn't catch too much. Look, I thought the Highlanders did well considering their placing in Super Rugby Aotearoa. I thought they definitely um, benefited, if you like, from the week off. So yeah, no, it was good. It was a good game for them to come and stake their claim as Trans-Tasman wannabes.
Yeah. Yeah, what about you there, James, mate? Did you catch that opening game?
Yeah, I did see that one, and I agree with that. I thought the Highlanders were impressive, but I didn't. I felt a bit for the Reds. I actually thought that game was going to be a lot closer than it was. The Reds, I do think, are a good side, but I mean, it's pretty hard to back up a final, try and celebrate that, and then fly over to New Zealand with a pretty depleted side, and then try and perform against a very physical Highlanders side. They just dominated them at the breakdown, and the Reds just couldn't get too much going after that.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I think the Highlanders coach, mentioned that in the post-match interview that they got the Reds at basically the perfect time.
Yeah.
They are a good team, but there's that hangover factor. So you want to play them in that first week. And they had, I think, Tate McDermott, the halfback, who's a critical part of their play. He was rested, and Harry Wilson at number 8. He was rested as well. And then they had James O'Connor. He got injured, head knock quite early. So that's some pretty crucial guys that ended up being on the sideline early or rested. So, yeah, I agree with you on the Lucy's. Himeno, the Japanese import, he's been bloody awesome. And Billy Harmon at 7 was one of the guys that I've got here who's really stood out. So, congratulations to the Highlanders. It's always good. I thought it set the tone for the weekend as well with the Highlanders dominating. But we'll have a look at that second game. So, James, I'll get you to comment first. So, the Waratahs played the Canes. Bit of a cricket score, 48-64. The Canes took it out, getting an away win in New South Wales there. So what did you make of that one? What can the Hurricanes take out of that?
Mate, that was a crazy game, eh? I only watched the first half because it was getting pretty late, but I did watch the highlights in the morning. But, man, it looked like it was going to go that way. It was just such a loose game, counter-attack, offloads. It was razzle-dazzle. There wasn't a lot of defensive pressure coming on from either side. I thought both defenses were shocking, but some of that attack was pretty special. So the Canes usually when I saw the game go like that, I expected the Canes to end up running away with it like they did. They do have attack all over that park, and to see guys like Salisi Rasi and stuff just running amok out there was good to see.
Yeah. Defense looked a bit optional, mate. Joy, did you catch much of that one?
I didn't catch too much of that one, but yeah, I think the score speaks for itself. Eh? It's quite sad to see the Waratahs do as badly as the score suggests, but and it was quite nice to see the Hurricanes get some confidence boost in that type of a score, that type of a game with a lot of tries. So hopefully they got to spread the ball around a fair bit and use the backs that seem to be a bit of a waste over this last season.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you told me before the game that the Waratahs are going to score 48 points, I just thought, oh, cool, they must have got a good win. I don't know, when is the last time a team scores 48 points and loses? It almost gets done by 20.
Yeah.
That was a crazy game, like you said. I think that's a good way of describing it. And, the guys out wide, Rayasi, Julian Savi on the other side, they were just running rampant. There seems to be space out wide a lot, so the defence has got a lot to answer for. I'm not sure what the Hurricanes will take out of that. If they're obviously happy to get a bonus point win, but leaking 48 points, that's a lot. So still some things to work on at least as well. We'll look forward again to the next one. So the Crusaders played the Brumbies. This was one of the better matches as well, real close one. The Crusaders taking it out 31-29. James, mate, did you catch that one? And any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I did catch that one, and it was a good game actually. I thought it was good rugby. Brumbies obviously had their chance at full time to draw that, and probably potentially deserved it. I thought the Crusaders were flat, and speaking to a couple of them since the game, I mean that final took a lot out of them, and a few celebrations, etc. leading into the week, and they
Yeah.
didn't have a huge amount of time to prepare for it. So I think that took its toll, but I think you'll see a better Crusaders side this week. But I do like that Brumbies team. I think they fight well, and like I said before, they're going to be a tough side to beat in this comp.
Yeah, they look one of the better Australian sides, which you guys touched on a bit earlier. So, mate, how about you, Joey? Any thoughts on that one? The Brumbies Crusaders match?
I thought there was a lot more scrum resets than needed to be, but I think Crusaders, in true Crusader form, towards the beginning of Super Rugby season. So I'm guessing they're looking at this as a bit of a reset, and just playing accordingly, where they reset and they get all the mistakes out of the way early in the piece, and then come the business end of the season, they're right up there again. So I think they're going to build momentum, and just like James alluded to, they're just going to get better from here on in. They're going to be disappointed in their performance. I think it was a bit scratchy, but I think they'll come right.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the Brumbies. That's probably one of the toughest assignments to play the Crusaders in Christchurch. So for them to almost get a draw, that's a pretty good result for them. I don't know if they'll be happy with that, with the loss. Obviously, they're a pretty proud team, but not a lot of teams have gone there and basically got embarrassed. So you have to give them some credit there. And I thought that number 6, Ethan Blackadder, he's been good actually this whole year. So just get your guys' thoughts on where you see him, because I think he could be a potential All Black bolter. I know there's some big sixes around, so Frizzell's been good all year. Akira Ioane's been good. But where do you guys see Ethan Blackadder? James, mate, I'll get you to have a chime in here if you want.
Oh, I
Blackadder?
see him in that All Black side for sure. I mean, I'm kind of hoping he's not, because I'm with Tasman this year, and he's a massive part of that Tasman squad, and he's just such a good man. Like, he works harder than anyone I've seen, and just a good guy. Like, last year he was out for the whole season, and he was every day in at training, filming the training for the boys so that they could watch it. That sort of stuff. He'd always do those little things, and he just constantly works. He's such a good man, and I hope he makes the All Blacks, because he deserves it. And mate, the way he played in the weekend, he was unreal. But that sort of performance has been pretty consistent throughout the whole Super Rugby Aotearoa. So I'll be surprised if he's not involved in that All Black squad.
Yeah. Mate, Joe, mate, you got any thoughts on Blackadder? Do you think he'll make it?
Yeah, mate.
Bit of depth here at 6 as well.
Just to echo what James said, I'd be surprised as well if he wasn't in that All Black squad. He was one of my picks early on in Super Rugby Aotearoa as a bolter, and I still stand by that. He's just consistently hardworking. If you watch him during the games, you can see he's actually one of those. You can actually see he does those little extras in the rucks. Um, Unless you're someone like me who loves watching rucks and scrums, you don't really notice. I love watching every little elbow, every little fend in the face, every little shoulder barge. I love watching that kind of stuff. But yeah, he's definitely one for the future anyway in the All Black jersey.
Yeah, I think he's gonna. Yeah, if he carries on, it'll be pretty hard to leave him out. It's already getting to that point already, but just it's a matter of where you fit all these guys in, which has always been the hard part for the All Blacks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he might sneak in as well. Yeah, good thoughts there, boys. We'll look at mate Joey. I'll give you the first read on this one, seeing that this is both our teams, the Blues. So the Rebels and the Blues. The Blues looked $1 million for once, and they took it out 50 points to 3. Very convincing win. I'm not sure if you caught much of that one, but what did you make of? What have you made of the Blues so far?
I, as a staunch Blues fan, I really expected them to come out with a performance like this. Not necessarily the score, but the performance. They needed to pull one out of the bag that just reminds the rest of New Zealand, hey, we're still in this hierarchy, if you like. We're all vying for second place behind the Crusaders. So I think the Blues just need to again be consistent. They were really unlucky, but by their own doing, to not make the Super Rugby Aotearoa final with with Crusaders, and Chiefs were able to sneak in there after their 0-12. That's one for Roger, that one. But it was nice. It was nice to see that the Blues did have, what it takes to put in a performance like that, and I think it was only overshadowed by the Hurricanes' performance.
Yeah, yeah. Mate, what about you, James? I know that 3 points would have probably been something they'll be happy about, just not conceding any tries. But did you catch much of that game?
Yeah, I saw the highlights of that one. It looked like the Blues were in some sort of form. That ball was going everywhere, especially for that. I can't remember whose try it was, the winger's try, where there was offloads everywhere, and then the cross kick. That was going to be a runner for the try of the year already. I think that was an unreal try, but I just think they put too much pressure on up front. Their scrum was just so dominant. The Rebels were going backwards, and man, it's a hard game of rugby when your pack's going backwards like that, and it's pretty scary signs for the Rebels, I think, going into this comp. If they can't get their set piece right, they're gonna have a hell of a time over these next few weeks.
Yeah, good point. It's on the set piece. Yeah, I agree with that. I thought the forwards for the Blues, as you mentioned, were outstanding. So Tutu, he looked back to his best. Akira, when he came off the bench, he was a beast as well. So just that power and go forward, and then everyone looks good after that once the forwards are ripping up. So yeah, 100% agree. I suppose the key point now for the Blues, who have been quite inconsistent, is if they can just carry that on. It's quite a short competition. It's only 5 weeks and then a final, so hopefully they can catch some fire, and then it should be, we can see what happens after that. But on to another close one. So the final game of the round was the Force against the Chiefs. With the Chiefs probably getting a bit lucky. 20 points to 19 was the final score, mate. But Joy, I know you come from that area, so I'll give you the first word, mate. Did you catch much of that one?
I didn't catch too much of the Chiefs game. But I did feel sorry for them from the week before, where they lost the final by their own doing, losing two players in that final. But I'm quietly looking forward to how they actually do in this competition, or as they say, they gave it a name. This competition.
Trans-Tasman.
Yeah, other than Trans-Tasman, they gave it a nickname. The nickname for this competition.
Oh,
It'll come to
can't
me.
recall.
It'll come to me.
Yeah. And how about you, James, mate? Did you end up watching this one? It was another late one.
Yeah, I didn't start for it, but again, I watched the highlights on YouTube. I think they're about 5-minute highlights and get a good glimpse of the game. But it just looked like the Chiefs' discipline was shocking. I mean, they had 2 yellow cards and a red. It's tough to win a game with that many men down. But to be fair, the Force probably should have won that game. I mean, that kick was kickable right on full time to win it, and would have been a completely different story. But yeah, like you say, it is a short competition, and I mean the Crusaders and Chiefs both miss out bonus points, which will be crucial because no Kiwi teams are playing Kiwi teams now. So you'd expect the 2 finalists to go in potentially without a loss and potentially with all 5 points. So the Crusaders potentially could be gone already if 2 teams play well.
Oh, I hope so. No, I shouldn't say that. I know we've got a lot of listeners down in Christchurch.
It will make it interesting at the back end of this competition, though. Like, it's going to be sort of 24 points, 25 points. You'd imagine. I think the 2 finalists will be the teams that don't lose a game, and then it's just going to be how many bonus points they've all got. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, Crusaders won 5 in a row. They should give someone else a turn. So it would be good to see. It would be good, like you said, but they're a class. They're a class act. So you have to give them credit there.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll just ask you, James, quickly, mate. The Damian McKenzie, so he's sort of shuffled between 10 and 15. So you would be familiar with a lot of that. Where do you see him best used? And where would you like to see him be playing?
Oh, I think he's a gun fullback, but I mean, I'm not sure where the call is to come to play 10. I mean, there's a logjam at fullback for the All Blacks. I mean, Will Jordan, Geordie Barrett. There's only really Richie Mo'unga until Bodie's back at 10. So I imagine it might be something to do with that, but I mean, I think his best position's fullback, but he can play 10 easy. He's a class player, man. He's good at what he does. He can break tackles. He's exciting to watch, eh? Like he's just got energy about him, and he's tough, and he's got all the attributes. So there's no worries about him playing at 10, but I do think he's a better fullback.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've talked about this previous as well, Joe, but are you of a similar mindset to that?
Yeah, well, I think reading the write up of the game, I think McKenzie did get his kicking boots on for this particular game, compared to the week before where he seemed to have left him at home. He was missing everything. He couldn't really kick a dog the week before. So it's nice to hear that he's had a good game, got a conversion penalty. Yeah, it'd be nice to see. I'm all more of the feeling that he is a utility, but um, give him as many minutes as you can if you're going to bring him on as an impact player in the black jersey later on. I too love seeing him at fullback, and I think he can slot in fullback and 10 equally, but I prefer to see him at the back. Just was attacking nous anyway, more than anything. Especially in those.
I agree. I think that's a good point you raised.
Sorry, yeah. Especially in those games where um, you're playing against South Africa or Australia, and it's the last 30 minutes of the game, and you really want to inject some fresh legs onto the field that can, really. Because as a forward, you love seeing your freshly subbed back come on and just glide through the defense and give you some yardage. If they're not going to kick some yardage for you, that is. And when you see someone like Damian McKenzie creating something out of pretty much nothing, and then it leading to just phase after phase, or leading to a try even, that's exciting for forwards. It re-energizes you as a forward who's just been doing all the hard graft, and you want that psychological boost, and that's one way to get it in the later stages of the game.
Sorry, boys, having some more technical difficulties. Got to get that internet bill paid. Just for anyone who wants to do a podcast, make sure you've got the internet connection properly. That's my tip for myself. Just James, who's an expert at the podcast, will know that as well. All right, boys. Yeah, some good thoughts there on DMAC. That was the last thing I caught, and I agree with all of that. So, yeah, I thought that was a good point, James, that you raised about sort of the lack of depth at 10. So I think if he can have that string to his bow as well, then that could really, assure his place in the All Blacks. Not that it's not already, but just to have that. I think he could very well be the second best 10 and one of the top 15s as well. So yeah, some good thoughts there.
He's a favourite of Fozzie's.
Those Waikato boys, they always look after each other.
Yes,
so
that's true. That is true.
Yeah, all right, boys. Just a couple of things I wanted to look at. So the great Kieran Reads, he's announced his retirement as well. So just something that's popped up in the news recently. And also at the start of the show, we had James who announced that he had hung up his boots as well. So two big retirement news is there. If anyone else isn't sure about James's future, but we'll just look at Kieran Reads. Where do you, James, mate, I'll come to you. Where do you see him in the great pantheon of the number 8s? Do you see how high up the ranks would you put him?
Oh, it's always so hard to compare eras, eh? Like, I obviously have only sort of followed the last 20, I guess, so with any sort of real detail, but he's been there for the majority of that, so, mate, what he's done in that black jersey's been incredible, and, mate, he's just such a good guy, too, off the field as well. Everyone has real high opinion of him as a man and as a player, so I never got to play with him, but I got to play against him a few times, and mate, you always knew when you're playing against him, he's a physical man. Like, he would throw his body at you pretty hard, and would always come off best.
What about you, Joey, mate? Where are you seeing Kieran Read? And amongst when you talk about the greatest ever number eights?
He's definitely in the conversation, I'd say. And yeah, it is hard to compare eras. If I think in 10 years' time you'll be able to look back on Kieran Reid's career and think a bit more deeply and especially in regard to his contribution whilst in the black jersey. I think, like you said, James, he's given so much to the jersey and the game, and I think as fans of rugby, because we've been spoiled for choice of talent over the decades. It's hard to say right now, whilst it's still fresh, what his contribution has meant to the game. In 10 years' time, I think we'll look back and we'll be able to compare him some more to some of the young blood that's out there right now. I think if you were to compare his era with, say, a Zinni or Ron Cribb or Tane Randall or whoever you want to compare him to, you have to factor in the man off the field as well, because the man off the field is just, you know, like you say, James, what a guy, what a lad. And
What a lad.
he's he's
Could be in for an upcoming guest for you there, James, as
yeah,
well.
I
yeah,
might have to message him after this, actually.
yeah.
Get him
So
on.
he's another one of those talents that have come from South Auckland, and he's done his apprenticeship in Crusader country, and obviously got the black jersey whilst he was down there. And I do remember his breakout season and the season before that, where a lot of pundits actually thought he should make the All Blacks, but didn't. He just missed out on that particular team. Worked hard, and the following season, from then onwards, he never really gave up that black jersey. So it was only a matter of time for him when he first started playing NPC. But testament to the man. He's done the jersey proud. He's done the country proud, and obviously his family.
Yeah, yeah, one of the all-time greats. He's the third most capped All Black of all time, and that year, 2013, they only won World Player of the Year. That was some of the best individual seasons I've seen from a forward or number eight. He was bloody amazing that year. So for me, I think he is. I think he's the greatest. I think he's the greatest All Black number eight. To say the greatest when you're looking at other countries is a bit tough. But I'm also like you, James. There's a bit of recency bias. I've only sort of watched the last 20 or 30 odd years, so there could be some other guns
Yeah,
a lot before my time, which I'm unaware of. But for what I've seen, yeah, I'm putting Kieran Read at number one.
fair enough.
I think he's the best I've seen. Um, just one more thing. I'll give an update just for our listeners out there. So we have the Wes medal, which is named after our network, and our listeners will know that it's for the Super Rugby Player of the Year. This is just a thing that we do. So we review each game, and we allocate 3 points to the best player, 2 for the second best player, and 1 for the third best player. So we've done it from the start of Super Rugby, and we're going to run it right through to the end of Trans-Tasman. So it's still wide open. But in first place, we've currently got Damian McKenzie and Richie Mo'unga. So they've both got 11 points. And then Cody Taylor and Rob Valentini sitting in next. They've got 9 points. And James O'Connor and Hoskins Satutu both on 8 points. So it's still wide open. And if someone can carve up in the next sort of last 4 games, they could run away with the prestigious Wes medal that we just made up. So just something to keep an eye on. We put it on our social media pages as well if people want to follow that as well. So just a quick update. But we'll have a quick look. We won't look at all the games, but we've got a couple of games upcoming this week. So there's 5 games. So the Canes and the Rebels, Force and the Highlanders, Blues Waratahs, Chiefs Brumbies, and Reds Crusaders, which might be one of the good games. And we've got a TAB account, James, just for you, brother.
Yeah.
So we opened it up. We started with $50, and we've been winning through up to $155.
Oh,
And
nice.
what we do every week is we put a $10 bet on just for something. So have you got any tips that you want to check out there? Just something that our listeners might want, and we'll put our $10 on
I haven't
just for
I haven't
something.
seen the odds yet, but I know last week, I mean, all the New Zealand teams were incredibly short, so it was pretty hard to make a buck. But I'd imagine it's going to be pretty similar this week. All the Kiwi teams really short, almost unbackable.
Yeah, yeah. I think I wouldn't be. I would have loved to have seen the odds for that multi for all 5 New Zealanders. That could have been something we could have looked at last week. But
It was really
yeah, I'm not
short.
sure of the odds.
It would have been about $1.50, all of them, I reckon. They were like the
Oh,
Canes were $1.01. Everyone was pretty much. It was ridiculous. It was way more one-sided than I was expecting. But obviously, a couple of them got a bit closer than the TAB expected. But yeah, there's definitely no value you missed last week getting all 5 of them. I think everyone predicted that.
yeah. And Joey, mate, yeah, just for our listeners, so we've got a TAB account, so we put $10 on every week. What are you looking at for a bet for this week? Anything? We'll chuck our $10 on.
What did I suggest last week?
Last week you put it on you flushed $10 down the toilet. You said the Chiefs are going to win Super Rugby Trans-Tasman, which they're still in the hunt. They're still in the hunt. We'll say that. So that's why we put our $10 on last week.
Okay.
Chiefs to win the comp.
Okay. I think they've got a chip on their shoulder, the old Chiefs, but so do the Blues. So I could be wrong, and the Blues could come back and make a liar out of me for this competition. I'm not sure. I suppose it's anyone's at this point, but if I was a betting man, big time, big shot betting man, I would put my money on the sure bets, and the sure bet is Crusaders at the moment. Whoever they've got.
Yeah, they got the Reds away, so that could
Be a tough one.
I'd still
that
back
could be a tough one. Yeah,
I'd still back
You
them.
might
yeah, I
get some
probably
value
would as
with
well.
That's high risk, so I'll still back them.
I think
So
the
there'll be some money
Hurricanes
to be made
and
there.
the Blues both win by plenty. I'm saying
Yeah, see, there you go.
20 plus this week. So there's my 2 cents.
Yeah, now what we'll do is we might put a multi on because, I think you're right, the odds are going to be low, so we might have to put on 2 or 3 things. Yeah, we'll look at the Canes and Blues by lots and the Crusaders away
I like
as
it.
a multi, so that's going to be our $10 bet. And yeah, we have been winning, so we've tripled our money so far. So any pundits out there, I don't know if you can trust our stuff, but yeah, that's what we're putting our money on this week. So thanks for the tips, boys. Yeah, I don't know if we see much upsets and how much chance we give the Australians. So we won't go through all the games individually because that's quite a lot of work. But yeah, we're just about to wrap up our podcast then, boys. So we're just about done. So we'll get some final thoughts just in closing. Joey, mate, I'll come to you first, brother. Anything you want to say about the week that was and everything?
I think this week is more of accurate indication as to where each team is at, especially given that the week before was the final. So you've got 4 teams that probably weren't playing at their best because you had 2 teams that were doing 3-day benders with Mad Monday and then back to training to get themselves up again for this Trans-Tasman derby. And then you had the other 2 teams who were on a high, so they were probably on a 3-day bender as well. But I think, this week, look out for teams like, the Blues and the Hurricanes, who definitely have points to prove. I'm not sure about Highlanders if they're in the same space, the head space, but yeah, the Blues and the Hurricanes have points to prove. I think the Chiefs need to work on their discipline a bit because that's 2 weeks in a row now they've had players missing from the field.
Yeah, good thoughts there. I think there's still All Black places up for grabs as well, so that's got to be motivation enough. If you can rip up for the next 4 weeks, you could easily bolt your way in. So you're definitely a lot to play for. Well, how about you, James, mate? We're just about to wrap up, so just some final closing words from you, just about anything, really,
Mate,
and wrapping up.
Yeah, I agree with Joey about this weekend. I think that we're going to learn a lot from that Crusaders Reds game, just how good the Reds are. I mean, tough for the Crusaders to travel over there. Also, if we'll learn a lot about the Brumbies as well. Chiefs playing over in Canberra. I think that's going to be a real tough game for the Chiefs. So we'll learn a lot about how good these Brumbies actually are as well. And like Joey said, I think the Waratahs and the Rebels are just a step behind the other two, so that's why I think the Canes and Blues will put plenty on them. But other than that, it's been awesome to be on the podcast and been cool to talk some code with a couple of lads, so appreciate having me on.
Yeah, nice. Yep, for sure. Yep, yeah, I agree with all of that, boys. Yeah, just congrats to all the New Zealand teams this week. I guess they killed it. So the Trans-Tasman is something we really look forward to, and I'm glad the competitions was able to get up and running. Amidst the global pandemic, because there's not a lot of other sports that have been able to do sort of cross-country style sports, really. So I think a lot of people deserve some credit for getting that off the ground. I'm at least expecting or hoping, I'll say, for some stronger performances from the Australian teams, just to add a bit of spice to the competition. And like you guys both said, so the Reds Crusaders and Chiefs Brumbies, those could be must-watch games, I think. We'll learn a lot about both those teams for the podcast next week for sure. But I do want to say, big thanks to our special guest there, James Marshall, for joining us today. Check out his podcast, What a Lad. It's available on all the usual podcast platforms that you'll find, and it's definitely worth a listen. One of the best, one of the better rugby podcasts going around. Right up there with our one, I'll say. But
second best.
Yeah, thanks. I love it. I'm a fan. That one you had, the decision, I want to call it, was with the LeBron James style one with TJ. I think that was what really caught a lot of people's attention. So, yeah, check that one out for sure. And Joey, mate, thanks for jumping on as well. Always a pleasure, brother, and always insightful as usual. But I think that's us. I just want to thank the listeners for joining us again for another episode of the Counter Ruck. We're available through the usual podcast platforms, ranked a lot further down than What a Lad, but we're still in there. So, just check us out. And, boys, thanks for being part of the pod and sharing your knowledge.
Cheers,
that's
mate.
us.
Appreciate it.
Cheers. Thanks, James.
All good. Good stuff.